Welcome to Performance Anxiety, proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. In this episode, we welcome Lucy Kruger of Medicine Boy and Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys into the Performance Anxiety family. Lucy tells us about growing up and becoming a musician in South Africa and why she and bandmate Andre Leo moved to Berlin. She talks about how her music has changed over the years and what she's been doing during this never-ending pandemic. But to me, what's incredible is that her music is also reflected in the album art and the videos for the music. It's all one cohesive experience. And on a personal note, there's something about Lucy's voice and her music that just grabs me. It doesn't matter what the band or the project is. It's the only time I want my heart broken. So thank you, Lucy. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your music. Give her a follow at Lucy_Kruger on Instagram. Follow us at Performance ANX. And if you like this and other episodes, check out ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/performance anxiety, and consider supporting us with a cup of coffee. Now let's check in on Lucy Kruger on Performance Anxiety, part of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Okay. Hello, my name is Lucy Kruger, and I'm a part of Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys and Medicine Boy. And you're listening to Performance Anxiety. No, I'm so bad at that stuff, really. I'm just happy that that went okay.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for joining me, and this is great. I mean, I had Andre on a few months ago, and that was really my first exposure, preparing for that show, my first exposure to Medicine Boy. And I've just been working my way all over back and forth between Medicine Boy to Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys to finding just recently The Very Wicked.
Oh,
and
nice.
Some really interesting stuff. So it's really great stuff. Your voice and Andre's guitar together are really, it really resonates with me. There's something about the sound. It's just it really hits home to me. I have a few bands and artists that I really that are my go-tos no matter what I'm feeling. It's Led Zeppelin, it's The Verve, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, and now it's anything that you and Andre do. Whatever.
Oh, that's very fine company.
So, and fortunately, or unfortunately, the only I've got somebody related to each of those bands on the show at some point, except for The Verve. I've got to work on that.
Well, yeah, I'll have to get there somehow.
So I wanted to thank you for coming on. It's really great. It's been amazing going back and listening to all of the music that you've created over the years, and it's really interesting. And I want to find out a little bit more about how you got into music in the first place. Like, for example, was your family really musical, or and when did you start with music? Did you start with an instrument? Did you start singing?
Yeah, I mean, I think my family, they are musical, and also I suppose maybe even more important, just very intense music lovers. So music has just always been an incredibly important part of my life, just consciously, subconsciously. And I mean, my mom plays a bit of piano, and she sang in choirs, and my dad plays guitar. Okay. But I was extremely obsessed with singing in a very annoying way.
What do you mean annoying? How so?
Yeah, I mean, because I just really wanted to sing anything and everything, and I was really asking from when I was very little. I was asking the school if I could sing solos, and
oh wow!
I don't think I was very good. I was just very determined.
See, that's the exact opposite of me as a child. I was always trying to shy away from having to be out in the spotlight. So that was.
Yeah, no, that definitely wasn't me. I suppose not that I wasn't shy, but I just really loved singing. I suppose I really loved performing. I did other kinds of performing as well, but singing in particular. Okay. And then I guess I started to. I listened to all sorts of things, and I copied all sorts of things. But then I think when I was a teenager and I mean, I think feeling's always complex, but in a particular teen way. I discovered Joni Mitchell, I guess. My sister-in-law, who was not my sister-in-law at that point, she was my brother's girlfriend.
Okay.
She had started playing guitar, and I remember she used to do a cover of A Case of You, a Joni Mitchell song.
Yeah.
And it was so, it just kind of, I suppose it blew my mind a little bit. And she was writing, my sister-in-law was writing her own songs. And I really wanted to be able to do that because I could tell, I suppose, that would be a different thing and that would feel different. And
okay.
I guess I didn't want to copy anymore. I wanted to try and figure out my own thing.
Oh, okay.
And so I started playing guitar when I was 16. And I started writing from then, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay. And so at that point, when did that take the leap from just writing and singing on your own to actually performing in public in front of people?
Well, I mean, I suppose as soon as I started playing, I started performing.
Oh, okay.
Me and my sister-in-law used to do some shows together, and I also did some solo stuff. There was a little guitar. I grew up in Johannesburg, and there used to be a little guitar club every second week, and I would play there. And then I played some kind of just small shows here and there, I guess.
Oh, and were you playing your own stuff at that point, or mix of covers?
I suppose I always played a couple of covers, but I really started writing. I mean, I wrote a lot, actually. I don't think it was very good necessarily, but I've always been someone that, I know Andre, for example, I think he writes something and then it's really kind of ready and crafted by the time he shares it.
Okay.
I'm really clumsy, and I'm a bit of a, if I have a song, then I want to play it for somebody immediately, you know?
Oh, okay.
So my poor parents, I think, and siblings had to listen to. I suppose I started doing that from then.
Okay.
And then I went and studied theatre at Rhodes University, which is a little town in Grahamstown, and I also started playing. I was playing a lot there, and it was a really lovely way to kind of get comfortable because it's a student town and everyone's sort of discovering, and it's quite a gentle audience somehow, you know.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's very nurturing, I imagine.
Absolutely.
So what's the scene like down there? Because I've never been to South Africa, so I can't, I can only speak to really East Coast U.S. So, I'm not sure what, are there a lot of places to play in when you were going to university and all? Was it a very supportive?
I mean, gosh,
scene?
I suppose that's very specific because the place I played, it's really a tiny town. I mean, when the university's on holiday, there's no one there, and so there's not a lot of places to play, but it's manageable to play because it's not a kind of really competitive scene, or you can play much more casually, which I think is really lovely when you're starting out because it's not such a kind of overwhelming industry-driven thing. It really is a much more casual. And in that way, you have space to find a voice and, I don't know, I suppose develop more of a understanding of what the interaction between audience and an artist could and should be like. I don't know if that sounds very pretentious or something.
No, that makes sense, though. And the reason I ask is I remember when I was, first getting into music, I love reading, and I love reading biographies of artists that I like, and a lot of the artists are musicians. And so I remember reading about how competitive the scene, the punk scene in New York City was in the late 70s, and how bands would go to, CBGB's was the place to play, and they would all go and sabotage each other because there are always record execs. They're listening to the shows, and so one band would try to screw up another band's set or play over their time, or so I'm always curious to see if that's just unique to that time period, that type of music.
Yeah, I mean, I often think when I hear from my, I suppose, friends that are not from South Africa about the creative scene, it's always very interesting to me. I think that because it's so difficult to make. There is very little industry in South Africa. The attitude is quite different from artists, and it's really beautiful. I really wish that there was industry. Like, that's not I don't want to like glamorize not making money, because it's terrible for not just the community, in the sense that at some point people have to stop or really have to shift their focus because they have to live. But so it's not. I don't think it's. But there is something when there is really very little opportunity to turn it into something kind of corporate, then you can only do it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of a safeguard against these things, but obviously that has a very difficult aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
But I suppose what I'm saying is, I think that it is very supportive, because the focus is so much on the need for it, and the need to create, and the need to receive.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And I was a photographer for years. I went to college for it, and my experience in college was not. I don't want to say it was like the punk scene at CBGBs where people were sabotaging each other, but I went there thinking it was going to be this great open conversation about photography, and it was more a big competition.
Yeah, like keep your secrets. And
exactly.
stuff.
That's exactly what it was, because I remember specifically, what we would do is we'd have to shoot a certain amount of, and this is early 90s, so it wasn't even digital at that point. We were all shooting film still. And I remember we had to shoot like 10 rolls of film for each project, which was expensive. And then, so my family was middle class, so I didn't have a whole lot of extra money. So I'm not shooting 10 rolls of film. I'm shooting like 6, because I can't afford to do that, because you have to buy the film, you have to buy the photo paper. Fortunately, the chemicals were basically free, but everything else you had to buy. And I remember seeing somebody working on something, I think, that is really great. How did you do that? I can't tell you. Why not? Well, because you might do something and I'd get a better grade than me. This is not what I came here for.
No. I mean, I also think that, I guess there's so much to learn from one another, and the kind of growth that could happen accumulatively. Exactly.
Yeah. And to be fair, that was mostly within the students. The professors were great. They were really open about telling you how to do things.
Sure, yeah.
I also was not the best about asking my professors. Sure. I was in a weird space where I've kind of felt wasn't mature enough to really take advantage of the opportunity there. And I remember thinking, if I start something, it was a weird mind frame that I had, that if I started something, I should already know all about it. I mean, I sometimes think that, I feel like now I'm ready to study. Yeah. Because, I would be so much more, like you say, so much more kind of clear about not knowing anything and really being open. And I'd be a much better student now.
I guess it's part of the learning, I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. So you actually have a solo album out prior to working with Andre and the Very Wicked and Medicine Boy and Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys. How did that come about? When did you start getting noticed and get this record, this solo album in the works?
What happened was I was studying theatre and I had done my honours in that, and then I was going to do my master's. But then I really was ready to pretty much go back to university. And then I just decided, I don't know if this is really, maybe because of this idea, like I've been in this university environment for 4 years straight from school. And I don't know if it's better for me to actually rather try to step into the world a bit and do something else and then come back to the master's if necessary.
Okay.
And then, or if I still felt I wanted to. And then I decided, I had so many songs at that point, I decided I want to make a record. But actually, I guess there was a strange sense of, I want to work with people that really know what they're doing, because I don't know what I'm doing.
That makes sense.
It does and it doesn't, because I learned a lot in the process, but I didn't learn really through making my own mistakes. I think it might have been more valuable to... Well, no, I don't want to say that. It was a different way of learning.
Okay.
And I think that, I guess I learned a lot in that. And I think one of the biggest lessons was that I think that the interesting thing one has to say is really in like figuring out your specific whatever it is, sound, lyrical, well, not style, but I guess it is what you want to say and how you want to say it. And
yeah,
that first record, it's hard to say, but I guess it was really a big lesson in understanding what's important and what's not, what is important.
Okay. And and it's not easy to find, at least for me. So
for sure. No, and I think you're constantly, I think you just, that's the process, you know.
Yeah. And so what was the approach there? Were you approached to do to be signed by a label, or did you actually seek that?
No, I had a few when I was still a teen, when I was still in school. I had, with a family, my uncle had a kind of small studio space, and I went and hung out there for a bit. And there was a family friend who's a musician who plays bass, and he also produces. And he had said, if I ever wanted to make an album, I should come and make one with him.
Oh, cool. And
I was so, at that point, it was the first time I'd ever sat in a room with musicians and someone had played my songs, and it was so incredible. And it really stuck in my mind, you know. It was one of those moments. And so when I wanted to make a record, I didn't really know anyone or anything in the music world, and so I did just phone him, and he said, cool, let's do it.
Oh, man. I did see some interview clips from that time period, and a couple tracks, and I've seen a few early live performances. The sound you had back then is a lot different from from what you do now.
Yes, it is. It's true. It's very strange for me to. It's funny. I was speaking to a friend about this the other day. Somehow, you know, you feel you're going through your life and you're carrying yourself, and you feel quite steady or regular or something. But when I see an image or a clip from myself by chance from about 10 years ago, I can really barely recognize the person. It's so strange.
Oh my gosh.
I touched your sleep, you were drained from my need. The split was simple, you were tired, I was weak. I watch you look, and I'll make up all the meaning. A book of fiction, not worth reading. You're living in the past, and your mind is fighting time. It's like you're running with the blind. You've gotta let it go. I would hate you to let it go when you're living.
So you've got this solo album out, and I've noticed something. This is going to be just kind of a broad. Something I've noticed broadly, I guess maybe would be the best way to say it. Every project you work on, from specific more from The Very Wicked to now, everything gets, as you progress, gets a little more pared down, a little more sparse.
Yeah.
Is that a specific thing you're trying to achieve, or is that just the way things are going?
Well, I think a bit of both. I think the last solo record that I released, which is Sleeping Tapes, should have been the first record that I made.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense. I think I was trying to make too much of. I wanted things to be more than they were, which did them a disservice. You know, I think it took away. It just covered up the essence of something. And I'm curious to see what I do next, but I suspect that. Or maybe I'll go extremely. No, I know. I know what I'm working on. So I don't. I think that it was kind of a necessary, pulling away of things. And if I hadn't been even braver, it would have just been me. But I wasn't quite that brave.
It sounds the later stuff sounds pretty. Some of it sounds pretty close to being just you. So it's
no. There are actually some stuff that there are some songs that are just me. Yeah.
All right,
but it's true that it's gone backwards.
So how did you go from doing solo stuff, you know, being on TV, being out in the front, doing your own music, to The Very Wicked, where in the first couple of singles that I'm hearing, and the first EP, you're more background vocals, and then the full length that you guys did, which is incredible, by the way. That I was just listening to that honestly for the first time yesterday, and oh my god, that the sound that you guys got on that, it's the feedback blast on songs like Wash Away, Wings of Snow. That's the kind of stuff that I live for. I love that stuff. But you were in the background for the first 2 singles in the EP, and then you kind of you're right out in the forefront for the LP. How did first of all, how did you meet up with everybody, and then what was the process to get you out in front?
Yeah, well, I think on that the first EP, it's not me on that. It's on the Very Wicked. The LP is, and one of the I think A Drop of Water, is that what it's called? I mean, gosh, it's been a long time.
Yeah,
but then so I suppose what happened was, I mean, it's kind of a funny story, but I mean, no, it's not very funny in my mind. It's a bit funny.
Those are good stories.
No, I should never start a story like that because I don't tell funny stories. I really don't. Setting myself up for failure. No, so when I moved from Grahamstown to Cape Town, I really wanted to play with other musicians, and I had no idea how to go about finding a band. And one of the same family friend that I'm speaking about, his son had a band called the Pretty Blue Guns, and they were actually playing their last show. And I knew that Lucas, the drummer, played a few instruments. And I just got a little bit drunk, or maybe, I don't know, maybe more than a little bit drunk. And I just went up to him after the show and I said, do you want to play in my band? And he was super cool and he was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so then we started sort of experimenting, and he was playing a bit of guitar, a bit of drums for my solo project. Okay. But at that point, him and Andre were busy working on the Very Wicked. Okay. And they wanted a woman to sing and play keys, but I didn't actually play keys. And they had somebody else, but I guess it wasn't quite right. And about 2 weeks before they launched as a live band, they asked me if I would join. Oh, okay. And I had never played keys before, and I'd also never been I'd never been in a band. And I went into that rehearsal room for the first time, and I was in a tiny room, and it was the loudest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. Yeah, I can imagine. I was genuinely shocked. Oh, wow. And I mean, also because the boys at that point were really, like, I don't, now, for example, I mean, it's still extremely loud, but if we rehearse in a room, it's not that loud, all of us have. Yeah. Boys being boys, musically. I couldn't play keys, and I couldn't hear anything. So I remember that first show. I mean, it was all very overwhelming. I can imagine. But then I guess we just started to spend time together personally and musically, and Andre started to play a little bit in my solo project. Okay. And then I started working with a really great drummer, and then he ended up playing drums for the Very Wicked. And then the bassist for the Very Wicked started playing bass for me, and it just became this kind of... And so I think we all just really developed some kind of trust and and all of us were writing songs. And yeah, I guess just as it developed, then I suppose... And I suppose it just became a more natural thing for me to sing a bit more and hold space, and understanding what a band is and how it Okay. So it's like I said, that is amazing stuff, and for you guys to be so inexperienced, that makes it even more incredible to me. I love that. That's on my wish list
right now. I'm gonna have to pick that up as soon as I can. I know I can get it digitally. I gotta try to figure out how to get a physical copy, because I feel like I don't own it even if I bought it.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like I don't own it unless I can get the physical copy. So I'm gonna have to hunt one of those down. So was the band well received in South Africa? I mean, was it, because it's kind of like a psychedelic heavy music, and I know that's what Andre really does a lot of, and he's amazing at it. Is that are there a lot of places to play, or is the audience open to a lot of different types of music?
Well, I mean, I remember when I just joined the band that Psych Night had just begun as a collective, which is, I know you guys spoke about it when you spoke to Andre. But him and it. I mean, I think that was kind of, the idea was that, I mean, these people love this kind of music, and so did a wider circle of people, and there weren't really shows happening centering around that, and it wasn't so easy to, I guess they weren't really being booked by bigger festivals, and so they decided they wanted to start their own thing where they would put on shows that they wanted to see and they wanted to play.
Okay.
And so they started. It was a really beautiful time, I think, in this alternative music scene, because they were really building something, and people got involved, and it felt like it's good to say I care and I want to do something about it and I want to build something, and that, I guess, has really grown into something very lovely, because they obviously then eventually put on Endless Days, and there is a very cool community that's developed around that.
I've seen some of the clips of that. That looks like such an amazing festival.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's really, really lovely.
If I could ever get to South Africa to see that, I would love to.
I think it's definitely worth it. It's really special.
And the bands are so good.
Yeah, no, they really are.
I was really amazed.
Yeah.
All right, so how does The Very Wicked turn into Medicine Boy? Because The Very Wicked is 4 people, and Medicine Boy started 4 or 5. Yeah, and then Medicine Boy started off as just you and Andre.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's quite difficult. I mean, I think it's difficult anywhere in the world, but in South Africa to make a living from music, and so it's quite difficult to carve out a lot of time to give to something.
Oh, because everybody has to make a living doing other things.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And Andre and I really wanted to be just giving everything to it, and we wanted to travel with it, and we had started seeing each other, I suppose, around that time, and so we had time, and we wanted to give it to the music and to each other, and so it just made sense to try something new. And it was really I guess it was at some. I can kind of remember the conversation. We were driving and speaking about how we really wanted to travel and how challenging it was to try and get everyone together, just logistically. I know that everyone really wanted to do it, and then I think one of us said, "Well, we should start a 2-piece, sort of as a joke," and then it happened.
And it wasn't a joke.
No. No.
And Medicine Boys is no joke. I mean, you guys are incredible. I was introduced to you guys through our friend Paula, who's just amazing. I love Paula to death.
Yeah, she's the best.
But one thing I forgot to ask Andre is, what's behind the name Medicine Boy? How did you guys come up with that?
That's funny. I mean, that was also in a car, I guess. There's a lot of driving in South Africa, I guess. Andre was sort of, he was looking for, things were a bit challenging, and we were on our way to try out some kind of like homeopathic medicine. And I was teasing him, I think, and I called him Medicine Boy or something. And at that point, we were looking for a band name, and I don't know if you've ever looked for a band name, but suddenly everything becomes potential,
Yeah, and the flip side of that is everything's already taken too.
Yes, no, I know, it's really a challenging thing. But when we said it, then I liked it. Both of us, I think there was something in the feeling, I guess, about both those words and the combination that just felt kind of playful and a little bit, I guess, I mean, I don't want to say psychedelic in the sense of, I don't know, it had an interesting kind of feeling.
Yeah, it does. I know what you're talking about. I was in one band in my entire life, and we were awful because it was 3 of us. None of us had ever taken a music lesson in our entire lives. It was early to mid 90s, and we just wanted to make noise. It didn't even have to be.
I mean, that's great.
It was me on guitar. My two friends Ed and Scott kind of flipped back and forth between bass and drums, but our drums had no cymbals. I don't know where we got this.
That's some kind of approach, I guess. You know?
So that's a very polite way of saying it. Yeah, and we kind of did that. We wanted to name it. We weren't ever planning on playing out or doing anything with it, but we did record ourselves just to see how awful it would sound. And we came up with their name, and it was not as good as Medicine Boy. We were Super Karate Monkey Death Car.
Wow. Say it again?
Super Karate Monkey Death Car.
Super Karate Monkey Death Car. I mean, it's pretty good. Okay.
It's different.
Sounds like all of you wanted your input. You were a very democratic band, and you thought, let's just use them all.
You wouldn't believe it. There's actually another Super Karate Monkey Death Car.
Well, I might actually believe it. It's a weird, it's a crazy world out there.
We looked. I remember early days of the internet. We looked it up, and there was one other band named Super Karate Monkey Death Car. I think I had heard it off from a sitcom. It was supposed to be.
Okay.
I think that's what it was, and I'd heard it. It was like a fake video game or something that was going on in this crappy sitcom that like lasted one season, and I think. I'm pretty sure that's how I got it. So somebody else must have been listening at the same time. So anyway, so I know how weird it is, and it's only gotten worse to find band names.
Try to name a band, I know.
Yeah, when things were a little less global, you could get away with.
Yeah, for sure.
With having the same name as a different band, like the old riff in the movie Spinal Tap. We were the originals, but then there was another original, so then we had to get the new originals. So. You can't get away with that kind of crap now.
No, it's true.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I'm trying to see the timeline for me at this point gets a little convoluted, and I'm trying to figure some of this out, and you're smiling.
Yes, sure.
Medicine Boy's music is incredible. I mean, it's definitely like a concentrated version of The Very Wicked. To me, it sounds like there are two different types of songs in Medicine Boy, and it's definitely ones where I can hear more Andre influence, and then there's ones where there's more of your influence. And I think, and I told this to Andre yesterday, I think you hold a record for me in writing the most amount of songs that have broken my heart.
That's what we're here for.
I told my wife that yesterday too, and she's like, I can't listen to them right now. Don't play them for me. But it's true. I mean, I started making a list of them, like Digging a Hole, For the Time Being, A Window.
Covers the night, but the window stays open wide. I can feel the air on my thighs. A message slipped from the sky.
Strange in Me, those songs are so amazing, and A Window really sticks with me, and Digging a Hole right now, but we'll get to that in a minute. Those songs are just so achingly gorgeous, and it's just the music, but your voice is also just, it's so soft and beautiful. But it's not always just, you've got this great quality. To me, it sounds kind of like a Grace Slick meets Lorena McKennitt, with a lot more restraint and subtlety. And it's, I don't even know what the question is at this point. I've just kind of gone off on a tangent.
No, I mean, it's thank you. It's very nice. It's lovely to hear that. It's a very deep compliment. Thank you.
How do you figure out at this point what was, because Medicine Boy just released your last album, and But at the same time, you were working on music with Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
How did you determine what song would go for what band?
Sometimes it was quite obvious. Sometimes I was writing specifically for Medicine Boy.
Okay.
But I guess often, when Andre and I first started Medicine Boy, we were living together, and I guess I just write a lot as well. And then sometimes it would be, which the ones that Andre may be connected to as well, we would use for Medicine Boy.
Okay.
I said really depended. I mean, I remember one song, Lashes, which is on Kind of Like Electricity.
Lightning bolts hang from her ears. Whoa, told me she lives in the ashes, where the mountainside burns slow.
He was busy writing the song, and I was writing a song. And I think he kind of overheard me writing a song, and he was like, "Oh, that's a really nice chorus." And then he kind of stole the chorus from that song for a Medicine Boy song, and that was going to be a Lucy song. But it doesn't really, I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, songs can go so many ways. I think so many of them could have been both. And then I guess the production style shifts. But even in that way, I mean, there's a song on Kind of Like Electricity called. Is it uncovered? Yeah, I think so. Called Beautiful Blue.
Okay, yeah.
Is that what it's called? Oh my gosh, my brain. Well, anyway, I guess the point is that there's a song that I wrote that Andre just plays guitar and I sing. And then there's one on Sleeping Tapes where Andre just plays guitar and I sing. And I'm pretty sure that they could be in a way interchangeable. But I think that there's something really powerful about, which is why I guess we've never really been a band that releases a lot of singles. We've really made albums.
Yeah.
And I think that I really love the idea of, if you are working on a collection of songs over a period of time, something in your decision making, just in the way that you are, in the space that you're in, there's kind of that energy and whatever you're feeling and enjoying at that time goes into that thing. And if it's two people working on this one thing, it's going to have something very specific about it, and it becomes, some of that's really conscious, some of that it just happens.
Yeah.
The essence of it just slips in. I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but it's not always so clear. Sometimes it was very clear who I was writing for, and sometimes I would see where the song would go. Okay. I mean, for the time being was really, I wrote that on my guitar, and I thought it was really a bit of a nothing song.
Oh,
and then
really?
I can remember, yeah, because I think sometimes, I think it was one of those songs where I was really feeling a bit sad, and I wrote it as a bit of a, I don't know, it wasn't really, I wasn't in a focused writing way. I was kind of just probably a bit pathetic on my couch. And then I think later I was wanting to experiment with my keys a bit more. And I remembered that I had this little thing, and I thought, I'm going to try and use it basically just to experiment with the keys. And then something about that way of doing it brought it to life in a new way for me.
And the blue girl, like the doors closed, so he wouldn't upset all the color she'd left. And I'll be in the other room if you need me.
And then it became a Medicine Boy song. Anyway, I guess they take very strange journeys sometimes.
Well, for the time being, is my youngest daughter's favorite track. She absolutely loves that song. And every time I put it on, she's like, "Oh," she runs with her remote. So it's connecting with me, with my whole family. So
that's wonderful.
Some of the music, most of the music you've written is incredible to me, and it's.
Thank you.
Oh, it's just kind of a backhanded compliment. That's weird.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So when did you guys decide to move to Berlin, and how did you choose Berlin? And
I mean, it was pretty simple, actually. We wanted to be touring, and it's very difficult to do that in South Africa, and Europe was more possible, so we had started doing that. And in order to kind of try and grow on that, we decided we needed to move, and because of our visa stipulations, Berlin was possible. It was kind of central. It was relatively affordable.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
I've heard through a few people that I've had on the show that live in Berlin how open and wonderful it is for artists. So have you guys found that to be the case with Medicine Boy, with touring in that area and living there?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess it really depends how you conduct your life, and I guess Berlin, you can do it in many ways. I guess that's the idea of openness.
Okay.
I am a bit... I sometimes find it a bit difficult to use that openness somehow, in the sense of... I don't know, I guess I'm still just sitting in my room making a lot, which is what I was doing in Cape Town, you know?
Yeah.
There's potential, I think. Maybe I think you've got to be sort of bold enough to tap into it. And touring, you know, it's not that we're playing a lot in Berlin.
Okay.
You know, I guess it's just, it's the idea is that you could be touring a lot more. I don't know what I'm saying. Of course, it isn't a very open space. I think because there are so many different kinds of feelings and people and scenes here, that it's interesting. You don't have to fight for your identity, but that comes with another kind of, I don't know, I have to figure it out, but
uh-oh.
That's going to take a long time. It's not going to happen in this show.
Well, I'll just have to have you back on.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be just as confused.
I need you to kind of help me out with a little bit of this. This is the part of the timeline that gets a little confusing for me.
Yes.
At the... let's see. A couple of years ago, Medicine Boy is still active, and then Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys kind of takes shape. But Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys is basically the Very Wicked. It's pretty much the same people, am I right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It wasn't... sorry, no.
Oh, no. And when this occurs, are you still in Berlin when you guys start with the Lost Boys?
No, so the Lost Boys... so the way that it happened was Lucas started playing with me, and then Andre as well. And this is already the start of the Lost Boys. And then I started working with a drummer, and we had another drummer for the Very Wicked. But that didn't... At some point, I guess things shifted a bit, and we decided to work with Vanna, who was the Lost Boys drummer. And then, Calvin was, who played bass, was like... I mean, and actually I'd already started playing with him a bit before. I think it makes so much sense in a way, you know, you develop these deep friendships, both musically and personally.
Yeah.
And it already had some kind of identity. And, you know, like I said, the first album I worked with professional session musicians, and that's a very different thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as easy to generate conversation, musically, honest conversation, you know, like... Yeah. So anyway, the Very Wicked, at some point in time, then it was the same. It was the same band, and we recorded a. I think this was in 2015. We went away to a family. I mean, not a family friend, a friend's place by the sea, and he helped us record an EP. Right.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Okay, and I'm just trying to pull some of this stuff up while we're chatting here, so I can get the names of some of this stuff correct.
Yeah, so that was just called, at that point, when that EP we made was just called Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys.
Okay.
And I think it was the start of some kind of sound. And
Beast, stay hungry, so
And then Medicine Boy started, and we released kind of like Electricity.
Okay.
I didn't want to. I really. There was something that there's a, and I guess this is like a relationship, creative or personal. There's something that you develop together, and it has this identity, and that's a really beautiful thing. But there's something that you can say on your own, or I don't know. I guess there's just different things that I wanted to say or express, and I guess some kind of feeling of independence has always been very important to me, and so I wanted to carry on with. Yeah, because as Medicine Boy, we were saying something together, and as Lucy Kruger and the Lost Boys, although there was a band, the kind of I was writing the songs, and I felt like I could say different things, you know.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. Was how does the music differ as far as writing? I mean, because I know you and Andre were working a lot together on Medicine Boy, but once you add more people, are you still the principal songwriter, or is everybody contributing?
Absolutely. No, I mean, I was very much. They're very much my songs. I mean, the band as a sonic conversation, the band was extremely collaborative.
Okay.
But they were my songs. Well, I mean, whatever that means. I guess the lyrics and the melody.
Yeah.
I have this feeling like there's something that wants to be said, and I find it quite difficult to say it without. It's nice to have some sonic assistance in trying to really get something across, you know?
Yeah, that can contribute, I mean, it absolutely does contribute to the overall feeling you're trying to get across with the song.
Yeah, and the boys were really a big part of that.
And you guys are familiar with each other, so you don't have to explain as much.
Yeah, exactly. You're building some kind of language together.
All right, so Medicine Boy just released their final album. It's different than the other Medicine Boy albums. It's a lot more aggressive than the other albums. Was it a conscious decision for you guys to really go in that direction as your final album?
I mean, I guess we didn't know it would be our final album when we first started making it.
Okay.
So it was a conscious decision, but not because it was the final album. I think, I guess there'd always been a sense of it. I mean, like, if you heard The Very Wicked, it's quite, there'd always been a sense of it, but there was some kind of restraint, I guess. And some of that came from the fact that we started with a drum machine.
Yeah.
And so there was a kind of feeling that developed around that. But then I think at some point there was maybe a bit of frustration in the freedom of expression, that the way that you can kind of push or pull when you're held down by a drum machine.
Okay.
I think we felt like in order for us to keep saying something and be honest about that expression, there needs to be... And Andre, I remember, because I've played with him in so many different ways now, and I guess you haven't seen him play live yet. No,
I've only... This is as close as I've ever gotten to Andre.
Sure. No, so, I mean, he's really... obviously I'm extremely biased, but he's a really beautiful and expressive performer, and there's a kind of wildness and that I think is sometimes quite restricted by the drum machine. And that also makes for something interesting, but like I say, that was like... I think we had milked it a bit for what we had. Yeah. And so we wanted to like, the clickers also can be the metronome can be such a murderer. Yeah. and we wanted to, and I think, and I do feel that I feel proud that we did that we didn't ever want to be like, okay, this is kind of working for us, so this is what we'll do now. If it wasn't feeling alive, then it wasn't right. And I think there was a feeling of wanting to let go a bit and let loose and rage a bit. I don't know how to say it exactly, but there was just a feeling of wanting to. Yeah,
I can definitely hear it, like songs like Wrecker and all. That's a way more aggressive than and it's. I'm trying to think of the rest of the discography. I don't remember anything with Andre being that aggressive vocally. I mean, there's definitely some aggressive guitar work and some really psychedelic guitar work throughout Medicine Boy, but vocally he's really giving it everything on this one.
Yeah, I know. It's a super new territory for him, and it was really beautiful to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's definitely my favorite part of the album is I think his vocal performances are super beautiful. I mean, for me, it's like, I guess there's so much there, but it's really, I mean, I remember when he was doing some of those vocals, and Fuzzy, the guy that we worked with, who mixed it and who we work with all the time, and the two of us were sitting outside of the vocal room, obviously, and it was so intense to listen and to... And, it's such a crazy and it's such a crazy process to hear this person performing these songs. And also, we knew it was the last album. There was such a kind of it was such a cathartic thing. Yeah.
Very emotional, I'm sure, at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there had been so many emotions. So then to have the kind of expression of it and it's really cool, for us at least, and hopefully for a few other people who need that.
And you do some really cool stuff vocally. Now, on the last album, the last Medicine Boy album, Take Me With You When You Disappear, and the, well, I'll give you the songs. It's Ragdoll and Half of a Woman. You do this amazing chanting thing at the end of each song. And that's really amazing. There's so many layers in it. Did you have that idea going in, how you wanted it to sound, or was it more experimental and just, okay, this sounds right, let's leave it alone?
I mean, Half of a Woman was definitely quite intentional. Ragdoll was, I guess it was a little bit playful. I mean, there was kind of, the final version of Ragdoll, I did that. I recorded that song in my bedroom in Berlin when I was extremely sick and a bit sad. And I tried to redo the vocals, but I think we all just really, I in particular, I liked the feeling of whatever was there. And then the end was, I guess it was just... it was pretty experimental, I suppose.
It really is.
Yeah. And then we just kind of liked how it came out, and I really like the cut at the end. Yeah, it was just kind of experimental, I guess. I
love it. I think it's really, and then Ragdoll just kind of cut a really hard cut at the end, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
So are the Lost Boys in South Africa, or are they in Berlin? And how are you guys working together?
Well, the Lost Boys has become a term for whoever is brave enough to play with me.
So it's more of an idea.
Yeah, I mean, it was very much this collection of boys originally, but it has become now something that shifts depending on.
Okay.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I mean, I would love to. I at some point I'll definitely do something with the original boys again.
Oh, that'd be great.
But we play together all the time, it's not like, but it's, of course, it's just not it's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoy about your music is the covers that you've done. And I'm trying to look up a few. I wrote them all down. Well, not all of them, because that'd be pretty crazy. But the ones that you've done some amazing songs by Dylan, Neil Young, Nick Cave, Velvet Underground, Tom Waits, Vashti Bunyan, and Jackson Browne. I mean, but they all sound like you wrote them when you do it. You're one of the few artists that can really, in my opinion, takes somebody else's song and can really make it sound like something that you've written.
See it shining in your eye. 'cause I'm still in love with you. I wanna see you dance again, because I'm still in love with you. On this harvest moon.
Do you pick these songs out because you love them, or is it, well, I mean, obviously you wouldn't cover a song you hate, but are there ones where you're like, this, I can really make this one my own, or is it more this one fits my register? What?
No, I think it's really, I mean, I'm really not a good, I'm trying to get a bit better at guitar because I have very little knowledge around it, and the best way for me to learn, and I guess particularly learn guitar, but then also to really understand songwriting a bit, is to really get to know a song that you love and really make it your, like, look, I mean, I also make it my own because I can't at all play it like they do, so that's just the only option. But I do think it's a very valuable thing to learn, because those songs are such incredible songs and they're such incredible songwriters. And it's really, I think about this a lot, like how wonderful it is to be able to, in some way, really slip into the hands or the heart of songwriters that you love. Because I don't think there's so many art forms where that's possible. I mean, I guess painters can copy a painting, but what could, authors, they can't, I don't think there's a physical processing and rewriting lines that you love. But when you're playing a song that you love, you're kind of feeling the rhythm and you're feeling the way the words are. I don't know. It's a really amazing, I think it's a really amazing learning thing. And I just like I say, I love singing when I was little. I just love doing that. Like I love to sing songs,
Yeah, and then, you're feeling kind of what you felt when you heard the song, something, whatever moved you to love that song. Now you're kind of feeling it while you're creating it.
Yeah, and coming to understand it, I think, in like a new way. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the version of Harvest Moon that you guys did was incredible. I love that, and the Diamond Days by Vashti Bunyan, that is incredible. I came to know her, not know her, but know about her only a few years ago, and so
me too. Actually, it was a really wonderful discovery.
Yeah. Oh, the Train song was the first thing I ever heard.
It's so beautiful.
By her. That song really. And the weirdest thing is, it was actually the theme song for a TV show I was watching.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very weird show called Patriot on Netflix.
Okay.
Very strange. The first year, there's 2 seasons, and they always threaten to do a 3rd season, but they haven't yet.
Okay.
The first season, the Train song was the theme song, and it was. This is. Okay, you've already pulled me in with this theme.
Yeah, I know. That makes a huge difference.
And the premise is, it's about this spy or Secret Service kind of guy who has to infiltrate some company to stop some weird thing. But it's a very dark comedy, and he's just burnt out because of the last job he had, he had to murder somebody or something. I don't know. It's insane. And he's just a shell of himself, and he's just kind of going through the motions, and he's just, the entire show, he's just sitting there like he's, I don't know, like he's nodding out or something during the entire season. And it's the actor is very good in it. But the second,
it's very dark.
It really is. But then they messed it up. The second season, they used a Beastie Boys song for their intro. But there's a reason for that as the season goes on. Yeah, but there's a reason for it as you go to the second season. So
sure.
I would recommend The Patriot if you like dark comedies, and Vashti Bunyan as your theme song. So I know I've kept you for quite a while, but I've got. I had another question, and I just lost it. What the hell? What is going on with my notes here? I told you my computer's is going really crazy. Andre had mentioned that you may have written enough music for a whole nother album while you've kind of been on lockdown. So have you been writing more music and working out some stuff?
Yeah, I have been writing a lot. I'm working on something new.
The thing I did want to ask you about is the visual aspect of the music, because you do some amazing videos. The photography, the videography, on your releases from the new Medicine Boy album. The cover is incredible. To the videos you've done, the video for Digging a Hole is incredible. Black Spot, that I love. Black Spot, that video is just amazing. Are those ideas that you have before? Is there an art director that's helping with ideas? Or
well, I mean, it really depends. It's gone many different ways, but mostly I have just extremely talented friends, and so I guess there's always a feeling that develops around the songs and the music. For example, I actually initially for Summer's Not That Simple, I had some ideas for videos, and then I very quickly realized that all of them were very much based around water. And so I would really just go with it. And then I spoke to a few friends who were filmmakers, and I spoke to them about those ideas. And then, for example, with Black Spot, I didn't really know Geoff that well before I did that. That was a bit of a leap of faith. We had met at a music festival, and he had said he really likes stuff. He'd love to do something. And then when I had the album, I reached out to him, and he lives in a different city. And he said, well, why don't you, because he's got a whole lot of friends who are making stuff there, why don't I just come there and we make something? And for that one, for Black Spot, I just said yes. And I trusted his vision.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was very much his sort of... But then, for example, Digging a Hole, a friend of mine was in Berlin, and we just got together a number of times. We decided we wanted to make something together, shared some images, and just came up with this thing together, and then made it together. So it really depends. But it's very... the feeling has always been very much one of, I guess, trust and collaboration and experimentation. You know, it's never been too I suppose a bit organic. That's what I'm saying. Maybe.
Okay. Digging a Hole looks... that's everything. It's a really interesting video.
I'm trying to let you in. I'm 28 and I'm terrified of everything. And I'm quite sure you're everything. We stood in the kitchen, your hands burning me. I'm too old to feel so young. Won't you help me come undone?
Was it hard to walk backwards?
Yeah, it was quite strange.
How many times did you have to do that? How many takes of that?
I mean, it was a very interesting thing to do, because I really we hadn't been in Berlin for a long time, and I really don't like filming in front of public audiences. It makes me very shy.
I can imagine.
And then I was this weird wet girl in this white clothes, like walking backwards through Berlin. But it felt very... also, I was very lost. I really just, I mean, in an emotional way, I guess. I mean, I literally just moved to a new city, and it was very strange. And that was a kind of, sometimes to do something that so matches your feelings is quite a relief somehow, or I don't know. It was kind of an interesting exercise.
It's a very moving video. It fits the song perfectly.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I really, I guess more and more I like simple. I really like the idea of doing something simple that somehow doesn't change the whole song, but just adds to a feeling or
Yeah, and that absolutely does. And the ending of Black Spot, where you're just staring straight into the camera and there's silence, that's intense. Man. And it's hard. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I was watching it at work, so so I don't know. Hopefully nobody from work's listening to this. But I and that's part of the difficulty sometimes when I'm listening and preparing for somebody whose music I enjoy so much, is that I kind of get, especially with your music, because it. Like I said, you've written so many songs that give me such heartache. I sit there at work and I'm like, my eyes are wet. I Nobody's looking. I gotta, because I'm at a desk and there's somebody next to me, and I put my hand up to my eye, like, oh, and I maybe pretend to hold in a sneeze or something. So, but then I'll find that, you know, I've got the video playing on my phone, and I'm just staring at it, and I'm like, oh crap! I actually do my work. Somebody's looking at me. I start typing again. So, the videos to me are incredibly successful in conveying and enhancing the feelings of the music. So it's
thank you.
If you're working with somebody, you're doing an incredible job of expressing what you want because it's coming through.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I've worked with lovely people. It's also just a lovely way of, it's just I mean, you've got the song and you've made it and you've got this feeling, and I think it's just another way for me to play a bit somehow.
Well, with
play with friends, you know?
And you've got that background in theater, so it's
it is a small way to sort of incorporate my worlds a bit.
Yeah. So, well, like I said, I've kept you for over an hour at this point. I want to thank you so much for explaining this, because there were times where I was kind of like, where does Medicine Boy end? So
it's a bit confusing.
It can be, but it kind of doesn't matter because all the music is great.
Exactly. I mean, I agree completely.
So, how can people follow you? How can they pick up the albums, and what can we look for in the future? I know everything's still up in the air, but what are we looking at as far as is there a new album in the works? Are you in the demo stage?
Yeah, there is a new album in the works, definitely.
Oh, awesome.
And I mean, I'd love to be playing live as soon as it's possible. I have a show in November. I guess we'll see if that happens. But I'll definitely be... I mean, I would love to be playing live as much as possible next year. And there will be new music. But I guess in terms of finding the music, the usual places, Spotify and Apple Music and...
Bandcamp and...
I mean, Bandcamp is the best.
Yeah, I love Bandcamp.
Yeah, it's really great.
And they've been doing some great stuff by, waiving fees
for
several times. So
yeah, no, it's super cool.
Well, if you ever get a chance to tour the States at all, I'm there. Anywhere on the East Coast, I'm going to find you guys. Thank you so much. What's the social? Is there a social media for you, the band that people can follow to keep track of?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Facebook and Instagram. When there's new stuff, I'll definitely announce it.
Excellent.
Well,
thank you so much for spending so much time with me. It's been
it's a
awesome.
pleasure. Thank you for having me, Mark. It's really lovely.
Pale him, pale him, singing bow, call for all, mind above, legs below, how to meet on this strangest